Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Demon Slayer. Last time around we had... Suguko Kano Suyuri. Yes. That was it. Alright. Just making sure I can barely read it from over here on Crunchyroll, but yes, we had that. Anyway. So, rehabilitation training continued. Tanjiro was doing better with the total concentration, constant breathing, and Zenitsu and Inosuke eventually joined in once they were basically peer pressured by Shinobu. We got a bit of Kanao's backstory where she was a poor child who was just being sold off until eventually she was found by Shinobu and her older sister and saved, and now... she doesn't talk that much. She also doesn't really, feel pain, but she also has a coin, where if she ever needs to make a decision, she'll flip a coin, so, yeah. Anywho, also, Tanjiro and Inosuke got their swords, and I think they might be heading to a new mission soon, I think. We got a tease at the end of... a demon on a train. Presumably the Mugen train. So, yeah. Anywho, it's the last episode of the season, so I'm curious where we're going here before we do get to the movie. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. So you can go do that, and let's just go ahead and jump right into this episode of Demon Slayer. Here we go.
強くなれる理由を知った僕を連れて進め
You know, now that I think about it, so, okay, the concept of this movie, I think, is really interesting, because, this is canon. This is gonna be 100% canon, you know? Which is interesting, because I don't really see that too often with anime movies, you know? Something like My Hero Academia. Sure, My Hero Academia had 3 movies. None of them are really canon, you know? Especially that second one. They're really not canon. But, I mean, they're not, so terrible. You know what I mean. Anyway. They're not really canon, and they're not, part of the plot. They're their own standalone things, you know? Whereas this, I guess this is sort of the Dragon Ball Super approach, where you had Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods and Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F, and then those two were remade into the Dragon Ball Super anime as just arcs. And I guess that's kind of what we have here, is that we have... the movie Mugen Train, and then we're going to have, we would have that remade into an arc in the anime. Now, of course, again, I'm going to be reacting to the movie along with episode 1 of season 2 instead of the 7 episodes of the arc. So, because, yeah, I don't know. I'm just so curious, you know? But, especially there at the end, it does sort of make me realize, wait a minute. There's already a Hashira here, you know? Because I'm so used to, I guess, honestly, the MHA movies, where in the MHA movies, it's always, Deku fights the bad guy, and he ends up winning, Sometimes he has All Might, sometimes he has Bakugo, sometimes it's just him, honestly. So, but here it's where we really have just now hyped up, we hyped up, Tanjiro, and he's got to defeat the 12 Kizuki and go and defeat Kibutsuji, and then it's oh yeah, I guess, honestly, probably Rengoku is going to be beating this 12 Kizuki, But either way, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting. So, and I kind of like that too, because honestly, if that wasn't the case, this might fall into, I don't know, I don't know how to, like, put this, but sort of the problem, I guess just sort of from a logistics point of view of, like, if Tanjiro was the one to be able to... And again, I'm saying all of this with no knowledge of what's going to happen in the movie, other than they're on a train, you know? But... I don't know. So, that's interesting. I'm just glad that, you know, the people in this show, who are supposed to be the most powerful people, are going to be shown, basically. You know? Shown. They're going to show their power. I don't know. Those were words. I need to down more of this caffeine because I'm not really making sense right now. That's okay. So, the big question from this episode. Why was Kibutsuji disguised as a woman? I mean, he looked fabulous. He looked absolutely fabulous. I'm just not entirely sure why he did that. I don't know. So where I thought, especially once we got to Rui, where I thought, you know, the rest of the show was, you know, we would chip away at the 12 Kizuki until eventually landing on Kibutsuji. Not so. Because Rui was our first, and then now, what, like 4 others are gone? He killed 4 of the others. And now there's this last one, the last of the lower 6, which is lower 3. And he was the only one who sort of made the cut. He was the only one that impressed Kibutsuji. And so he gave that demon a portion of his blood. So, okay, all right, that's cool. That's interesting. Again, I still don't understand why he was disguised as a woman, but whatever. But that was interesting. That was really interesting that we just kind of churned through 4 of the 12 Kizuki. Which honestly, it's like when he says like, oh, the 12 Kizuki would be so much better just having the upper 6, and it's like, well, that's not really the 12 Kizuki then. It would be the 6 Kizuki. Which doesn't it doesn't sound as good as the 12 Kizuki, you know? The 12 disciples of Kibutsuji, I guess. I don't know. But now it's the 7. The 7 Kizuki. Oh, that sounds pretty good. It might just be that 6 is not the most intimidating number. Which, saying that out loud sounds like the dumbest thing I've ever said, but I don't know. I'm sure... I don't want to open that can of worms. I'm sure there's a million dumb things I've said, but doesn't matter. Anywho. So yeah. So now it's the 7 Kizuki. Because Tomioka killed Rui. And then Kibutsuji killed 4 others, so... Which, it's an interesting point that the lower 6 are all so weak, you know? That it's like they're replaced constantly. Which you could even see, like... You could even see that with the drum demon. He was defeated by Tanjiro, and he used to be part of the 12 Kizuki, you know? But it's interesting that is like, yeah, they're replaced, like, a lot, you know? They're replaced a lot, but the upper 6 aren't. They're the ones who have been around for a long time. In fact... Okay. So for 100 years, the upper members have all been good. And we don't know how long... Like, we don't know how old Kibutsuji is. I would just estimate he's 1,000 years old. Like, because that's just a nice intimidating number, you know? Unlike 6, but I guess we do know, though, didn't Tamayo say she's like 200 years old? I'm pretty sure she said that. I'm pretty sure she said she was 200 years old. So... But for the last 100 years... the upper 6 have remained unchanged. But the lower 6, they just keep getting... they keep getting killed by the Hashira. Because the Hashira are that good, you know? Man, I want to know how strong the Master is, you know? The Demon Slayer Master. I want to see him. Because honestly, I mean... Again, this is sort of... honestly, you know, because I've brought this up before. The comparisons you can make between Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia are really interesting, you know? But with this, it's like, you know, it's the same sort of thing. It's the same sort of thing as Star Platinum. But it's the same sort of thing of like, yes, and now Deku, our new hero, he will have to face, you know, All for One someday. And, you know, for a while you kind of look at it and you're like, are you sure about that? Like, you know, I'm not going to get into Season 6, because I just don't want to. I'm glad to not be thinking about that fucking season again. But anyway. But it is sort of the same thing here, where it's like, yes, someday Tanjiro will defeat Kibutsuji. And I'm just sitting here like, are you sure about that? Because, like, Tanjiro... Now, granted, okay, Tanjiro technically has now been boosted a bit. Because... All 3 of them have been boosted because all 3 of them are now doing total concentration constant, you know? So that's good, at least. But did you see the crazy 3D goo meaty things that he was doing in this? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, like, could... all of the Hashira defeat Kibutsuji? Probably. Tanjiro? I don't know about that. I don't know. He's so strong. I'm glad we had that moment of like, okay, this is how strong he really is. Because I've also said, you know, we see all these crazy, scary demons, you know, and then you think back to encountering Kibutsuji in Tokyo, and it's like, this dude looks like Michael Jackson. What do we, like, what? Like, this is our big threat? And it's like, of course he is going to be, you know, he's obviously the most powerful. I'm just, you know, we just haven't seen it. And it's like, okay, I've seen some of it now. I have definitely seen some of it now, so that's something. But yeah. But it really just makes you realize that, yeah, Tanjiro... He lucked out in Tokyo, honestly. He lucked out that Kibutsuji didn't fight, and then he was saved by Miss Tamayo, so... It's also interesting just how close... when you really stop and think about it, just how close Tamayo was to Kibutsuji, you know? I don't know. So yeah, so there's that. I also do love, I absolutely love, and we don't know the full story behind it, but I do love that, that Kibutsuji specifically has it out for Tanjiro because of his earrings. Because of those Hanafuda earrings that... We saw that little glimpse of it a long time ago. It was a long season, man. I started this season after Thanksgiving. And, you know, it was like right after the first episode that I ended up getting COVID. And so I had to take a break. So because of that, from like Thanksgiving to now the middle of June that I've finally finished this season, you know? It's crazy. Anyway... So that's pretty crazy. But we only saw a little flash of it, like, and we just don't know, like, was he, like, defeated by a demon slayer with Hanafuda earrings? But obviously he wasn't killed, because he's still alive, but I don't know. We'll have to see. We have to know more about this story. I'm curious if it will relate to Tanjiro's father and the whole fire breathing technique, you know? So, which I like, you know, the master seemed to have recognized it, like, fire breathing, interesting, you know? I don't know. I'm curious. So yeah, we said goodbye. We said goodbye to the girls at the mansion. I do like man. Tanjiro is just so great. Tanjiro is just so freaking great. And honestly, just like everything he does, it's just like, oh, this is what I always thought Deku was going to be. Honestly, like this is it. You know, you want to talk about a pure soul? Tanjiro's got that in spades. You know, he puts Deku to shame. Where I really do like, you know, when he's talking to Aoi, and she's like, oh, I was too much of a coward to do that, and he's like, hey, we need you. We needed you, you know, to take care of us. Like, and honestly, that's true, you know? Like, not everyone can fight. I mean, hell, look at the Kakushi. That's their whole point, is that they can't really fight, you know? But they help, you know? Everybody has a purpose to the cause, you know? And for Aoi, that's helping them. That's making sure that, you know, they get all fixed up. They couldn't have done it without her. So, that was great. And then, you know, after, you know, blowing the mind of one girl, he goes and blows another girl's mind, which sounds bad when I say it out loud, but, you know. But he goes over and is just like, Kanao is just like, oh, I flipped this coin to make a decision. And he's just like, all right, well, I'm going to flip this coin so that you make your own decisions. And it's like, whoa, jeez, man. But at the same time, it's like, it's a really interesting thing because, you know, it's honestly similar to Kane, Shinobu's sister, giving her the coin anyway. You know, it's another pure soul who helped her and changed her life. You know, and yeah, he did it. And I love how it's like, well, even if it was tails, I was just gonna keep flipping it until it said heads. So it worked out. Man, I need to know the kanji for heads and tails. I need to like learn that so that I can figure it out without them saying it, you know? That's a great reason to learn kanji. Learn kanji so you can understand heads and tails in an anime. Anyway. But yeah, we're heading off. We're on the Mugen train and we gotta figure out what's going on. And also Rengoku is there, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I also like how they point out how demon slayers are not recognized by the government. So yeah, any coppers, you know, they see some kids with swords and it's like, that's a problem, you know? So that's an interesting thing. It's weird because it's like, okay, demons clearly I mean, this is what I've said pretty much since the first episode, is that demons clearly exist, but they're just like folklore. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but I think it also works because it's in, you know, such a specific time period, because it's the early 1900s. It's such a turning point. I mean, the early 1900s, that was a turning point for, like, you know, most of the world, honestly. You know, a transition from the sort of, I'm going to say classical, traditional, you know, world that we all lived in, you know, horses and wagons and stuff like that, transitioning into what would eventually become the modern age. So putting Demon Slayer in such a time period like that kind of makes it work, honestly, because it's like, yeah, there are people, you know, in the countryside who are still, you know, clinging to their traditions, everything's, you know, great. You know, even to them, demons are sort of superstition. But then, you know, obviously you go to the people in Tokyo, they're not going to believe demons exist. You know, they live in Tokyo, are you kidding? So I think that just sort of works out. I just really love the time period, you know? And it also means we get a movie with a train, which is pretty cool. And I like how, you know, at first I thought that Tanjiro was just saying, like, oh, this could be the guardian spirit, you know? Like, I thought he was just saying that so that Inosuke would calm down. But then it's like, no, Tanjiro doesn't know what a train is. Because he's, you know, him and Inosuke, they're country bumpkins, you know? They don't know what trains are. I mean, hell, he was so surprised going to Tokyo, you know? So, yeah, it's like, he doesn't know what any of this is. But yeah, but I like Zenitsu. Zenitsu's a city boy, apparently. Or at least more of a city boy. Maybe he's a suburb boy. I don't know if the suburbs were invented yet, but yeah, he's at least more of a city boy than Tanjiro and Inosuke. So yeah. So that's interesting. And yeah, it was just such an interesting setting, too. And again, I'm curious. So I know that, again, the reason why we're watching Season 2, Episode 1 next is because there's stuff in that episode that's not in the Mugen Train movie. So we're going to watch that, then the movie, then we move on to Episode 8. So that's an interesting point. Going on this, it's like, we've already set up the movie. Like, normally, in a movie, any movie, you have to have the setup into the situation of what we're doing, and then, here's all the action, here's all the interesting stuff. Here, it's like, but we're just there. We're just there. They could, within the first 5 minutes of the movie, they could just be fighting the demon, and I can see right here, because it says, because instead of next episode on Crunchyroll being Season 2, Episode 1, it just is the movie. And I see it's an hour and 56 minutes long. So, what we're going to be doing for all of that time on this train, I have no idea. I'm very curious what we're doing. But, again, we are also going to be watching Season 2, Episode 1, and seeing, the exclusive stuff, I guess, that's in that episode before we move on. But yeah, really great setup, though. Really, really great setup into the movie. I'm excited, really, really excited for this. Honestly, I've really, really enjoyed Demon Slayer. And especially after the last season of MHA was pretty low for me, so I've really been enjoying Demon Slayer, and I'm excited to see where we're going from here. And honestly, just that time period is just, it's perfect. I just love it. So yeah, where we go from here. Where is the Mugen Train headed? And is this going to be the anime version of Bullet Train? You ever see the movie Bullet Train with Brad Pitt? It's actually a pretty fun movie, but yeah, I don't know why I decided to reference that, but here we are. But we will have to find out. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of my Demon Slayer reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.